Welcome to the V-Pod. Today's guest is Meredith. Meredith, welcome.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here. And I brought you a present.
She did. Oh my gosh. I didn't ask for it. You didn't tell me it was coming, but I ran out of Celsius. And we are not sponsored by Celsius or anybody else. And you brought extras. Oh, amazing. Amazing. Meredith, I'm glad you're here. And if it's all right, I'm going to give you a really humble intro. Meredith is a business owner. She lives here in Winchester, Virginia. She's a mom. She is someone that I'm very excited to have here today. Meredith, welcome. And you want to give us a little background? Because I know you're kind of like me. You weren't born in Winchester. You want to give us the basics?
Sure. Thanks, V. I'm super stoked to be here with you today. So I'm originally from Alexandria, Virginia, and grew up in a wonderful, loving, supportive family, and have been in Winchester since 2007. It's no secret I'm in long-term recovery and relocated here for treatment and just never left. I remember the drive out to Winchester. So Alexandria, 20 minutes outside of District of Columbia. And I remember the drive, seeing the mountains and the cows and the horses. And I'm like, where are we going? So I am shocked that I am still here in the Winchester area, but I have built a beautiful life here. I am a small business owner. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of the Recovery Connection. We provide treatment services for females here in Winchester. And I like it for the most part. It's very different from the town that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. You know, when you go to the grocery store here in Winchester, you're going to see somebody that you know, right? It is a small town, but I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to have the life that I do today. And yeah, I like Winchester.
I love it. It's crazy because that is exactly like how I felt when I was coming into town. I was coming up from Virginia Beach, and I'm driving by these cow pastures and definitely considered myself a sweaty city dweller. Mm-hmm. But that's really cool. I mean, you own this business, and I'm curious, how did you get into that business? Is it something my first job was a call center. I'm not sure what yours was, but I imagine, was it a rehab? Was it kind of a rehabilitation center?
It was not. I lived the call center life too.
Did you really?
Yes. Long time ago. I remember growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a teacher. I knew two things. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a teacher. And I did not become a teacher. And if you would have told me in 2007 when I relocated to Winchester that, hey, Meredith, you're going to stay in this small town. You're going to start a treatment facility for females that struggle with addiction, I would have told you were nuts and I wasn't qualified, and no way was that going to happen for me. But I think that shows us the sky is the limit, you know, here in life. If we just keep putting one foot in front of the other, we can do whatever we want to do. So no, I did not think that I was going to be the co-founder of a treatment facility. The idea really came from a phone call to my best friend, who's my business partner.
Julie
Funkhouser. Mm-hmm. You can be business partners with your best friend.
I don't know about that one. We'll talk about that one later, but it seems to be working for you two.
It does. It has worked for us. And I think that's because we just have an understanding of one another's strengths, one another's areas of challenges. I don't like to call it weaknesses, and we just complement each other so well. But the Recovery Connection idea came from a phone call. In 2018, I was looking for treatment services for a loved one in my life. And I called rehabs and treatment facilities from New York all the way down to Florida and really had no place for this person to go. It was that they didn't accept the insurance that he had, or it was going to be $50,000, or you're calling crisis numbers and they're not answering the phone, right?
Yeah.
So I remember calling Julie and saying, hey, you know, one day we're going to open up a detox right here in Winchester, Virginia. And she basically said, let's do it. What are we waiting for?
Wow.
We got back to reality. We realized we could not open up a detox facility.
Real quick, what's the difference? I think I know, But I think a lot of people that might be watching this would be wondering, like, what's the difference between a detox and a facility?
Sure. That's a great question. Detox is when you have used certain substances that require medical intervention for you to come off of those substances. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes, if someone has been using alcohol, fentanyl, benzos, even opiates for long periods of time, they often have to go to more of a hospital detox setting.
Sure.
And then perhaps step down to treatment. So that's the difference. This is a disease, right? And oftentimes is not fixed by a 5 or 10 day detox or even a 28-day program. So the Recovery Connection, it's different in that sense. It's a longer term program for people to really build connections and find their purpose.
That's amazing. You know, there's an interesting stat out there, and I wish I had pulled it up before this, but it's something like there is one facility, and kind of what you alluded to, and definitely is the truth. There's a lot of different ways to approach addiction, whether you believe in the disease model of addiction or other ways, right? Everything from your $50,000, hey, come stay in Malibu and get a back rub and pay us a ton of money. We're going to build the insurance for like 10 grand for some screenings, whatever it is. 1 to 500. There's one rehab to 500 people in the US, which is a pretty insane statistic. Something to that tune. I might fact check it and put it on the screen later.
Wow.
They're not all made the same, right? And I think something that people in society in general have understood, especially from a lot of movies that have come out in the last few years, is that can be downright corrupt, right? So some of these treatment facilities that kind of parade around as such. What sets it apart? You mentioned a couple of things, right? What makes TRC different? What's your philosophy? I would love for you to get into that. Sure.
We want to be different, right? Because the treatment industry, sober living industry sometimes can get a bad rap, right? I could talk all day about TRC, but I won't. But TRC, our vision statement is we believe in heart-centered care for every single client that walks through the door, for the staff members that are there with us. Julie and I believe that anyone can recover, right? If they put in a little bit of work and are given what they need. And what they need is different based on every single person. With addiction, there's no playbook, there's no manual like, hey, Meredith, if you do this and this, your life is going to be X, Y, and Z. And what I've done for my recovery is different perhaps than what Julie's done from her recovery. So heart-centered care, the belief in our clients that they can recover. We're also open-minded to all pathways of recovery and treat the whole person. We don't want to be just another trip through a treatment facility. The clients that we serve, oftentimes this is not their first facility that they've gone through. And we want to provide a healing experience, not so much just another trip through treatment.
Got it. Yeah, so I don't think I've said it on the show yet. I'm pretty open about me being in recovery. I don't. It's funny because I'm doing this podcast and everything, but I'm actually generally a pretty private person. But it's not something I'm ashamed of or I hide today. And I've definitely been through facilities myself, right? And I gave up drinking, drugging, all of that December 30th, 2020. And thank you. And I've kind of seen it, right? And I've had a lot of kind of distrust over the system of there's a lot of like money involved. There's like court systems that kind of ushered me into it. And what I've definitely found is kind of what you said is there's no like one size fits all approach, but I think there are some common denominators and what that can look like for any individual, sure. Right? Do you maybe have some that come to mind there?
Sure. I think there has to be a willingness, right, on the person that is seeking help. You have to put in some work, right?
Yeah, they have to want it on some level, right?
They have to want it. And that's the tricky thing about addiction. And I'm sure we've all seen this. Like addiction affects so many people. Maybe not them personally, but a family member or a loved one. And that's the crazy thing about addiction is you can't tell somebody when they've had enough, right? Like,
yeah,
No one could say, hey, V, this is getting out of control here. Or, hey, Meredith, like, wake up, until we've reached that bottom. And only the individual can really say when they've reached that. So I do. You have to have a willingness. You have to have a little bit of skin in the game. But just being open-minded and the ability to start practicing to be able to be honest. And those values have served me professionally and personally as well, you know. But I've learned that from being in recovery.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said.
Thanks.
Yeah. The other thing that comes to mind is, like, I met a guy at the gym the other day, right? And it's funny because, like, you know, social media has his ups and downs, but I've seen him in the gym for a while, and I randomly saw him on Instagram. And turns out he's also sober. He gave up drinking. And I kind of asked him, like, hey, how did you do it? Like, you know, did you go through like 12-step? Did you do one or the other? And he said, no, you know, like, I popped into one, and I just realized it was like a real problem for me, and you know, it was costing me a lot, and he decided to stop. And in that, I kind of heard what I hear in everyone's story to some degree, which is pain, right? There has to be a level of pain, and a certain level of pain, I think, is really the only precursor in my book to wanting to get sober, give up whatever habit it is, even if it's not drugs, if it's not alcohol. And for me, I think I have a pretty high pain tolerance.
Me too. Which is not good.
It's not good. It is not good. And but yeah, very, very awesome. So when you say, you know, I don't know if you use the word, but it sounds to me like it's a more holistic approach, right? So what are some of the things that you guys do at TRC beyond what you see in a lot of other places?
Sure. So we focus on the whole person, come from a holistic healing aspect. So our clients, I believe it's 3 times a week, practice yoga.
Oh.
And I practice yoga as well, and it has changed my life. So I grew up an athlete. I played basketball and tennis, and Julie for a long time had tried to get me to just try yoga, right? And I was like, no, it's stupid. It's not even a workout, right? I'm not going to, before I've even tried it. That's another thing. You can't really have an opinion on something if you haven't tried it. So I tried it, I think it was Christmas Eve, maybe 4 years ago, and have never stopped doing it. It has changed my life. It is a good workout.
Yeah, it is.
Have you done it?
So I'm pretty sure there's only one Indian person in the room. So yoga is a very Indian, it comes from India, but anyone can practice yoga, right? And there's different schools, there's different ways of doing it. I had never done yoga until I moved to India for a year.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm like, I was like more of like a manly, like closed-minded kind of guy when it came to like yoga. So I was like, I want to lift weights. I want to do like, you know, I want to be like that macho guy. And there's this guy at Gold's Gym in India, and he is so freaking fit. Like, his chest is yoked, but he could do calisthenics. He was like doing those, like, he was doing push-ups and like clapping 2 times and coming back down.
Well, I still can't do that.
Come to find out, he's a yoga teacher. And I said, you're a yoga teacher? Dude, you don't look like a yoga teacher. You look like a bodybuilder. And his English isn't great, but his name's Sonny, right? And he goes, he starts training me. And he says, I'm a power yoga instructor. And I was like, okay, yeah, power yoga. That sounds manly. I could get down with some power yoga. I mean, cool. He whips my ass every day for an hour doing power yoga. And it starts out kind of like, you know, you do like some basic poses and everything. And then by the end, I was sweating. I was just not good. And he's not like a Zen yoga kind of instructor. He was yelling in my face. Vihang, sugar is very bad. No sugar. 1 more, 2 more, 3 more. Come on. And it was great. It was great. That was my experience with that style of yoga. Long story short. Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Power yoga. Our clients love it too. Yeah. And oftentimes at first are very resistant to try it, just like I was. Sure. But we do a lot of yoga, meditation, mindfulness. We have a yoga instructor at the Recovery Connection. Julie, my business partner, also teaches a few classes. Her one rule is get on the mat and try it, right? Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? And we also offer Reiki services. So Reiki is energy healing. And it's not something that the clients are required to do, but towards the end of their stay, if that's something that they want to pursue, going back to all of those pathways to recovery, we offer that. So we do come from a holistic approach, not just treating the substance use disorder.
Got it. I think that's awesome. I think like for me, early on, it was a lot of reading. I was in a lot of books. I was listening to a lot of podcasts too. And I tried a little bit of everything, but what I kind of realized is like I have like a biological experience happening, right? Mm-hmm. And like I really have to take care of my inside in different ways. The physical side, the food side, the mental side, and then what I consider like the spiritual side, sure. Right? And maybe you could go into that a little bit, right? What is the big thing? So you mentioned like the disease model of addiction. Is there a cure to addiction? That's the question. If there was like a little pill that somebody was pushing, ideally that would be the one, right? Instead of everything they push, right. Big pharma and everything in between. So how does someone actually get to the core of addiction?
Great question. If there were a pill to fix this, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about this today, right? I really think it's trying to dig deep to find out who you are, find your passion in life, and do that to the absolute max. Self-care is so, so important, not just for people, for humans, right? We have to take care of ourselves, as you mentioned, emotionally, spiritually, physically. We can't just do one, right? We have to have all of those things. And, as the co-founder and COO of the Recovery Connection, we're staffed 24 hours a day. It's not I go home at 4:30 every day and, I'm done, right? It can be a 24-hour-a-day job if you let it. But me taking care of myself is how I'm able to show up for others, how I'm able to continue to be in recovery and continue to build those connections and relationships with others, which is so incredibly important. But self-care is it's hard to do. I always say there's not enough hours in the day, but it's, Meredith, are you going to make time to take care of yourself?
Right. So you said it's staffed 24/7, right? So maybe we can go to that side. How many people work at the Recovery Connection?
Sure.
That whole side.
Can this be my hiring pitch? I'm just kidding. So we have the co-founders are Julie and myself, and then we have an amazing leadership team. We have a medical director, clinical director, program director, director of client engagement, and an admissions director.
Wow.
Yes. And the homes where the clients reside, those are the programs that are staffed 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. And we are always hiring for direct care staff in our residential homes. And really, they just have to have a passion for working with the population that we serve, a passion for working with folks that have been through substance use challenges in addition to mental health challenges. And then we have a clinical team at our group services location who are absolutely amazing and really are in alignment with what TRC's mission, vision, and core values are. So we have about 25 staff members.
25. Wow. Now, do a lot of people that go through TRC end up working at TRC too?
So we would love for that to happen. It doesn't happen a ton, but we would love for folks to stay local in the Winchester area. We do ask that the person, if they're in recovery, and not all of our staff is in recovery, we have a wonderful diverse mix. So if somebody is in recovery, we do ask that they have 1 year of sustained recovery. And then absolutely they could apply, especially for a direct care position.
Yeah, it's important, right? Definitely important. Wow. So you've done this since 2018. Is there a lot of hurdles to kind of getting to where you've grown? I mean, maybe you've had some challenges that jump out in your mind. And actually go ahead. I'll let you go and I'll ask that second question here in a minute.
Lots of challenges. My career, I fully believe that I am living in my purpose. And it can be incredibly rewarding some days, and then some days can be incredibly disappointing and exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes being a treatment provider, not everybody's going to get it the first go round.
Sure.
And oftentimes, the staff, we're just planting a seed for someone maybe to get it later on in life. But there's been lots of hurdles. When we opened as a non-clinical sober living program here in Winchester. And you fast forward 5 years, we have 2 residential homes, a location where our clients come for group services. We've changed a lot, right? And that's the thing too, is I take this very seriously because we are dealing with people's lives, right? We're not selling them something and then see you later, right? We are dealing with people's lives. So there's been tons of hurdles along the way with TRC. The one thing I think that has served us well is Julie and I have always been in alignment with the vision for the organization, who we want to be. I remember probably 2.5 years ago, at one point we had 4 residential programs, and we ran into a lot of challenges. It was COVID. COVID had just happened. Nobody was working. I don't know how they were getting by, but nobody was working. We had difficulties staffing our programs, and we reached a bump in the road where, hey, you guys got to decide what you're going to do, right? Very scary. Because we had to lay some people off. We had to, go from 32 beds to 16 residential beds. We knew we wouldn't be able to serve as many folks, but Julie and I have always said from the beginning, like, excuse my language, we'd rather have a kick-ass program for 16 people and deliver quality care than trying to scramble all the time to just make things work.
Sure.
But there's been lots of hurdles, V. I could take 5 hours telling you all about those. I'm sure you've experienced some as well.
Oh yeah, it's entrepreneurship, right? Whether you're in treatment, and that's a little side note here, because that's so near and dear to my heart. That's my own struggle and everything like that with my own addiction issues. It's hard for me to like reconcile the two when entrepreneurship already is so difficult. It's like getting punched in the face and saying, I'm going to keep doing this.
Repeatedly punched in
the face until you're like bleeding. And then you're like, I'm going to keep doing this. And it's so easy to quit. And that sounds like so amazing, right? I'll just, just hang it up. I'm going to go like work. And the only thing that has kept me going through that is the purpose, right? And I love that you kept talking about the vision and having that shared vision and a really great purpose to show up for, but it doesn't mean that it's an easy ride. So for me, my struggles have been numerous, but definitely love having entrepreneurs here. Like, I almost don't look at you as an entrepreneur, but I know that you have struggled on the back end of this to keep it going and to keep it alive and all kinds of stuff, right? Mm. Yeah. So let's switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
What does Meredith do outside of work?
Outside of work, my guilty pleasure is shopping.
What's the other one? You just told me about the other
one. Oh, no.
You just told me about the
So, yeah, no secret. We're in Winchester. V and I were talking about before. I have a weakness for sweets, and sweets at like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Duck Donuts is here in Winchester now.
It was big news in Winchester.
Big news. Crumble Cookie is here now too.
Don't tell me these things. I didn't know about that. I try to stay away from the glucose as much as possible.
It's a problem. I remember when Duck Donuts opened a few months ago, I was literally going once a week.
Wow.
And not just to get one donut, right? I'm bringing back 12 donuts to the house. So, yeah, shopping and sweets for sure. I love to do yoga. It really has been a game changer in my life.
Do you do like group yoga, or is it like do you do it on your own time? It's like I have a yoga mat in there, but it's usually just like foam roll at this point. Because I don't know. Like I always feel weird trying to get into a yoga class as like a dude. And just I'm not limber like at all. I know I could get there, but you know.
So you would probably prefer doing it not in a class setting, right? All right, I got an app for you. Down Dog.
Down Dog.
It's an app. You pay for it yearly. It's not too terribly expensive.
I almost got on the floor.
Down Dog. Check it out. You can actually go in and you can have a bit of say in what type of a workout that you want to do. So if you want to do a vinyasa flow, if you want to do something that's more so for flexibility, if you want to do it's really cool. You can pick body parts that you want to focus on.
Okay.
You can also do more of an aerobic yoga. I don't know if they have power yoga on there, but you could check it out. I enjoy doing it in my home before I start my day. I think I would enjoy a group class, but time management wise, what has worked for me is before I head into the office most days, I need to get on that mat and do something.
See, I could probably do that. So I hear it's like really good for circulation too, right?
It is.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a different take on yoga nowadays. I'm just getting back into the gym, and I've never done like the group exercise classes. I've never enjoyed them. I've done them. I'm more of like hey, I need to understand what I'm doing while I'm doing it, and let me have my own space to do it. Ideally where no one's looking at me too much, especially if I'm doing yoga and I feel awkward at first, right?
Yeah, but if you're down on the mat, you shouldn't be looking at anybody else.
I know, but I'm always that guy in the yoga class. I'm like, what do they do? One, it's like so I can figure out what they're doing.
Right.
Like my mom does Tai Chi, right? She's out of Norfolk, and she takes me to this Tai Chi class. And she is such a like outgoing person. And she's like, come on, let's go do it. Let's just go do it. Come on. Don't worry about it. I was like, they look so peaceful over there doing Tai Chi. I don't know the choreography or anything. She's like, don't worry, just come on, let's just do it. And so we go up there, and most of these people are like 60, 70 plus, and they're doing all this Tai Chi stuff, and I'm in the back just like, what do I do with my hands?
That's funny.
Yeah, Tai Chi is similar to Reiki, right?
I don't know much about Tai Chi.
Looks like it's like the flow of energy.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen people do Reiki. I know they have like a place in Winchester where some people do it. I don't understand it too well, to be honest.
Julie's the expert on that for sure, but it's energy healing, and I believe in energy, right? I know I can sometimes walk into a room and you either feel the really, really good energy or you're like, oh my goodness, I need to get out of here, right? So it's moving. We hold a lot of things in our body, trauma that we've been through, pain that we've been through, right? We can hold a lot of stuff in that body, so it's moving the energy out.
Got it. There's another one like breath work that people do too, right?
Yes.
I have a friend who got certified in that. Excuse me, it's Celsius. It's catching up.
Sorry. Well, here's 2 more for you.
I know what's in my body. It's like some gas now. But yeah, the breath work, she explained to me what that was and how she works with people who have trauma. My grandma was a big believer in yoga and breathing. I remember she would always do this thing with her nose, and it's really powerful stuff.
It is. And once again, right, you can't knock it till you try it, because I would always hear people say, slow down, take a deep breath. And I'm like, that doesn't work. If you take a minute for yourself, and I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it does. It calms your mind and your brain. Like, you're an entrepreneur too. My mind races all the time, all day, with mostly good things, right? But sometimes we need to just be still and be present in the moment.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do.
Especially now with all the apps on our phones, right? Like, and I'm not talking about Down Dog either. I'm talking about TikTok. I'm talking about Instagram. It's like you just kind of it's always right here. Like I can make like 4 hand gestures and I can just get massive dopamine hits and learn something new. There's good stuff. There's a really great side to it too. But I do miss that, like, I don't know if I've ever really had it for extended periods of time. It's just like genuine quiet, right?
Right.
Genuinely just shutting down and having that time to reflect and be peaceful with some intention. So I have this thing that I'm thinking about trying. I don't know if I can do it.
Okay.
I'm really doubting myself, to be honest. But I want to kind of just take my entire phone, turn it off, airplane mode. Like it's on airplane mode right now, out of respect to the podcast.
Sure.
But I want to do this daily for a set block.
Ooh, how long?
Probably like 3 hours makes sense to me. Because like, I hear people say like, oh, I wake up at 4 a.m. because that's when the world is quiet. That's great. I'm not waking up at 4 a.m.
I'm a morning person, but not that type of morning person.
Yeah. I mean, I just want no emails, no real estate emails. And like, even when you were walking up just now, I was like, oh, I got a really long email to respond to, which is great. I love my job. But I don't know. You ever like kind of give yourself some intentional quiet time, or are you kind of always on call with the business?
I do. I am today able to set healthier boundaries with my time. There was one point in time, gosh, maybe 3 years ago, where literally I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, right? Probably not getting a whole lot done, right? Because I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out. And I've been able to set healthier boundaries with my time. And really, one, that's thanks to the amazing team that we have at the Recovery Connection, right? Like, I can't do it all. I do, same thing with TikTok. If I start scrolling at night and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have been on this for 2 hours, right? Not even realizing what's happening. I do think intentional unplugging is good. Am I great about it? Nope. Not at all. And I think that too is humans can be reached all the time now, either by a text, by an email, by WhatsApp app. Right. And
I got another app this week from my new my fitness coach. It's like, oh, here's one more thing I can get texted through.
Right. And we have to set the boundary, right?
Right.
So airplane mode, or just even putting the phone away, even if it's just for 30 minutes, to be present. I've had to learn that the hard way, because when I was working those 70-hour weeks, I would, be at work all day, come home. I have a daughter. And like not be present with her. And that negatively, of course, impacts her. It negatively impacts me. I'm missing out on being a mom. And I am today much more intentional with my time. I'm not perfect at it, but.
Yeah, no one is. I try to find that balance, but.
Balance.
Oh, you got some opinions on that word then, huh? You just gave me a heavy eye roll when I said that one.
Ah, balance.
What does Meredith think about balance?
I think it's there will never be a point in my life where I'm like, whoop, I got this all figured out. I am perfectly balanced in all areas of my life, right? Because we go through stuff. I'm sure if you're working a real estate deal and it's got to be done before this day at this time, right? We have to show up and do that. We can't say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to have my life in balance right now. So I do think it's an ongoing struggle, but if I can take those moments in the morning before I hit the ground running, I'm able to show up how I'm supposed to in most areas of my life.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of, Michael Horn, right? So Michael Horn is, I'll say mentor. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And he says F balance, like it doesn't exist. Like people chase this, like it's like chasing a figment. It's like a figment of your imagination almost, right? The sentiment is, try to live like a well-rounded kind of lifestyle.
Sure.
Don't too much this way, too much that way. And I don't know. I have no idea what balance is. Like I am eating a balanced diet, sure. Like I'm having like a balanced overall lifestyle, sure. But when it comes to work or passions, I'm so I'm all in. Like I'm really all in. There's certain areas where I intentionally do not let myself do that. But I don't know. I don't try to chase it. I don't beat myself up over it. So I think it's really easy especially in the TikTok era to like compare out and say like, oh, that's just funny. It's like you go to social media and it's, people project this like perfect little box and put a bow on it. And this is how great it is. And your social media isn't that, which I really appreciate.
Thank you.
I watch them. Yeah. You get vulnerable. You do a lot of self-reflection on there, but you put out a good message overall, right? Well, something that we also have in common, we talked about off camera, is I used to watch a lot of TEDx. And one of my favorite speakers is actually a favorite author of yours.
Okay.
Who is Brené Brown. Tell us about Brené. I mean, how did you first hear about her? What do you like about her? If you want to tell people who she is exactly, what she does.
Sure. I probably found her on TikTok one of those times that I was scrolling. No, but I think the first I'd really heard about Brené Brown is when Julie and I spent 9 months building out what the Recovery Connection was going to be. So we went to different treatment providers, sober living homes, and we went to conferences, and Brené Brown was at that conference. And anything she writes, I just think she is so knowledgeable and opens up the doors to conversations, especially about leadership, that are really difficult. Right? Mm-hmm. She talks a lot about being brave and what that means, and being vulnerable and being empathetic, right? Which are all kind of uncomfortable things for us to do as humans. And I'll tell you, like, as the COO of my organization, I get to see the really, really amazing stuff, right? Like clients commencing from our program, or a client coming up to me and saying, thank you so much for making me feel seen and heard, or thank you so much for creating this special, special place, right? I get to see the really, really good stuff. And then I get to see the really, 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 really not so good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. COO, I'm sure you know this, it's operations, administration, admissions, financials. Who wants to be a part of that, right? So as a leader of the organization, I've had to have some really difficult conversations over the years. But Brené helps me be able to approach those conversations. And it's kind of like the Nike saying, like, you just got to do it. You got to walk through it. Mm-hmm. I've learned I can deliver bad news and still be kind, empathetic, and show someone fairness and respect. So Brené is the best. All of her books are amazing. Or if you're scrolling on TikTok, you can find her there. But she really opens up the doors for conversations that are uncomfortable for us as humans.
So other than Brené Brown, who are your other heroes? Maybe like parents or something like that?
Yeah. Both of my parents are my heroes. My dad passed away a few years ago, and he was my biggest supporter and cheerleader for Meredith, right? If there was a Meredith fan club, he would probably be the president of it. Always believed the best in me, even when I made a lot of mistakes growing up. My father, he worked for ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and was internal affairs.
Oh.
So
he was the Fed for the feds.
Yes. Probably didn't have many friends.
Yeah, he's like the final boss. It's
yes.
Like
Somebody screws up, he decides, what happens to them. And he always operated from a place of fairness, respect, kindness for people. So a lot of values that are important to me today came from both of my parents. And I always admire my mom. My father had his first stroke in 2017, and my mom became his caregiver for 4 years.
Wow. And
I just admire that she was able to take such good care of my dad. When you're a caregiver, your world gets super, super small. Mm-hmm. And my dad was not happy about having a stroke, right? But I admire both of my parents for different reasons, for sure.
Sure. Yeah. It's like I just had surgery, right? And it's kind of what you just said about your dad. And beautiful words you had for him too.
Thank you.
It's tough to like lose certain abilities really fast, right? And that's something that happens with a stroke or a major surgery or something like that. And gosh, I did not appreciate my left leg until I couldn't use it for 6 weeks, right? And I had my parents in my corner like crazy. Luckily my mom's a retired physical therapist, so
perfect for you for that situation.
Exactly. And but yeah, I mean it was awesome. Like I get to go. okay, the first week was not awesome. I was literally crying in pain once the nerve block wore off. But, you know, to have them there and take care of me, and even if she wasn't a physical therapist giving me exercises, just have that love, you know. So, yeah, that definitely relate in that my parents are absolutely my heroes. And my dad's in like upper management at Fortune 500, right?
Okay.
Maybe something here is like he has definitely influenced me accidentally, intentionally, and everything. His management style, however, I probably don't have the same style.
What's he like?
He's kind of like old school, right? Of like he'll keep you on your toes. Where like he's kind of like, I won't say like eccentric, but he's kind of like a wild card. He might just like kind of bark or like.
Okay.
And I won't say he's the nicest guy, and he really cares about anybody that works for him, works with him. He has literally risked his job before to kind of take care of them when they shouldn't be thrown under the bus, which is very antithetical to corporate in a lot of ways, right?
Sure.
How he's influenced me is in that empathy, that compassion. And curious, you're much more in management than I am. How has he influenced how you operate in business and personal life and everything outside of what you've already said?
Treating everybody fair and treating everyone how I would want to be treated. You know, there are always issues, right? When you own a business, and we at the Recovery Connection, we try to celebrate all of the staff members' strengths in the areas that they shine in. And then if there's challenges, talk through those, just being willing to have that uncomfortable conversation. And I look back at my dad had lots of uncomfortable conversations with me before. I remember teenage years, right? Not good. I remember when I turned 18 and got my first credit card, right? I basically thought it was free money, right? Capital One, free money. I was 18. I was living with my parents. My dad got my bill and opened it up, and I had spent like $5,000, right? And I tried to tell him that was a felony for him to open my mail. But you know, my dad, he was not going to yell. He was very respectful when he was talking to me, but like, Meredith, we got to sit down and talk about this, you know, and why did you do that? And just treating everyone with kindness, respect, fairness. I try to be fair. I've been complimented over the years as having high emotional intelligence. And the first time someone told me that I had that, I was like, what does that mean? Right? I had no clue. Basically, what it means to me today is I am, in a lot of ways, able to show up in difficult situations, crisis, and take my emotions out of it. Some, right? We all go through uncomfortable emotions and feelings, but just try to approach challenges with being fair. And if I let my emotions make my decisions, I'm going to be screwed. Right. Still have to have an understanding that feelings and uncomfortable emotions are just part of life. But as a COO, right, I have to make some difficult decisions sometimes. And my dad has just helped me to just treat everybody with kindness, respect, fairness, and that empathy piece that Brene Brown talks a lot about. And I've tried to carry those values with me professionally and personally in my relationships.
Sure. Now, speaking of relationships, you said it earlier, like, how would you say your partnership works? Like, what is complementary about you and Julie? Like, her strengths, I know you don't like the word weakness, where you guys shine and how that kind of has good chemistry in the business.
Yeah, great question.
And friendship, right? You guys were friends first, so. Yeah.
Yes, we have been friends for going on 15, 16 years. And I remember when we started the Recovery Connection, we had many people tell us, you do not want to do that. You do not want to go into business with your best friend. Your friendship's going to be ruined. It's never going to work out. And I think the reason that we've made it work is we show up unapologetically ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I have respect for how Julie shows up, and she has respect for how I show up. So it's no secret. Julie's the visionary, right? Julie's the visionary. Lots of dreams, right? And which is awesome. You need a visionary in an organization, right? And I'm kind of the one that reels her back in, right? Like she'll have a brilliant idea, but I'm like, no, not now is not really the time for that, right? And we just complement each other well. She's the visionary. I'm more the operations-minded person. We're different in a lot of ways, but our vision for the organization and for our friendship and our core values are very much in alignment. So I think that's how we've been able to make it work. Something that also helps us is we meet once a week together. Off-site, we normally go to Starbucks. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. Starbucks.
They know your name, don't they?
Oh, yes. Meredith, you're having your usual? Yes. But we normally meet off-site and we just spend time with one another.
That's awesome.
Sometimes we'll talk business. Sometimes we'll talk personal life. Julie and I have been through a lot personally, professionally together. And it's important to have that hour and a half each week where we stay connected.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would have been one of those people that told you back then. I didn't know you back then, but I'd be like, oh, bad idea. You do not want to get into. And looking back on my own thing, I was definitely younger when I got into business with one of my best friends. We had different visions. But the other side of it, and I think this applies to working relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, is we both had this quality of we had too much pride for one. But ultimately what that led to, that pride, was that we didn't want to make it work at a certain point. Every relationship, you're going to have conflict eventually, right?
Yes.
One of the qualities I think that makes it work out in the long run is, okay, when you have that conflict, and you guys could, I'm not saying this happened with you guys, I don't know, but like we could be in business, I could yell at you, I could curse you out, be so angry at you, say the worst things. And once that's done, what matters is, are we willing to get past this?
Mm-hmm.
And we both stopped having that. And once that was done, it was done. And I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about anything else. It wasn't just the different visions. It was just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And it only took about 1.5 years for that to come to blows. So,
but was it a learning experience, an opportunity for you?
Yeah. It's on paper, that business did not fail at all. But even though we failed to stay together, it wasn't a failure in that, we definitely, you talk about visionary. I have a lot of those qualities. Mm-hmm. If he wasn't there putting the taxes together, running the books, and being like, hey, you don't need the $20,000 display case, then we wouldn't have even gotten as far as we got. So I learned a lot about my own pain points, or not a pain point, where I fall short, right? Mm-hmm. Where I fall short. And to be honest, my big takeaway for the longest time was I'll never go 50-50 in a business ever again. And it sounds like you're in that arrangement potentially. I don't know what the back end looks like. But I said, I'm okay with being 49 or less, if it makes sense. I'm okay with being 51 or more, if it makes sense. But we didn't have a third-party mediation. We didn't have anything like that. It was just constantly, there was no decision maker. Somebody had to yield. And then I always felt like I was yielding more than the other person. Mm-hmm. And that led to, so I swore I would never, ever get into business ever again where it's 50-50.
Interesting. I remember when Julie and I started the Recovery Connection, you don't know what you don't know, right? We legit, we had no idea how to do this. And I'll be honest about that. It's been an amazing learning opportunity. I hate the word failure, but there have been a lot of mistakes and failures that we have learned from. But we did, when Julie and I, we do have partners as well. But when we started the organization, it was just myself and Julie. And I remember going to the lawyer's office and we're looking at this operating agreement. And it's like, okay, who's going to be the CEO? Who's going to be the COO? We didn't even know what that meant, or at least I didn't. We have been perfectly aligned, like Julie is as her visionary self, perfect for the CEO role. And I more so am in-house in terms of operations, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's when things fall apart or mistakes are made or things just don't work out, that's how we learn. Another thing that I've learned personally and professionally is not everyone in our lives is meant to be there forever, right? One of my biggest regrets, if you will, in life is I'm a people pleaser by nature, right? I think a lot of us are. But one of my biggest regrets is staying in conversations, situations, relationships where I am not valued, right? So I've had to learn that. Some folks are in our lives for a season. Some folks are in our lives for multiple seasons. And, there will be a small core group of us that are meant to be together forever, right? But
Sure.
Life ebbs and flows. You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember being in college one day. I think we were like drinking or hanging out or something, and we had like this crew, right? It's like a sitcom almost. So there's the four of us, four, somewhat five. He was kind of like the fifth wheel. but I remember thinking, I got really sad. It was a happy moment. I got really sad, and I was like, we're probably all going to drift apart and go our own ways and go into different parts of life. And sure enough, that happened, right? Married with kids. He lives over here. I live over here. I don't talk to any of them really on a regular basis kind of thing. We're not as close as we used to be, but it was what it was in that season. And I still love those guys.
Sure.
And I love that era of my life, but it's natural, right? Like I grew in different ways. Now, the other thing I would say with what you just said is I think it's like a Gary V quote or something, right? It's like, I try to fire fast when it matters. And not that my friends are employees or acquaintances are employees, but as I've gotten older, as I've been through more, I'm a little naive, I would say, and I'm a little too trusting, and I give people too many chances. And I'm all about second chances because Lord knows I've had a lot of those.
Sure.
But for my own sanity and my own, protection, I don't have a problem with getting vulnerable, but I don't have a problem with cutting ties really fast at this age. It's just, if we're not aligned, if you're giving me weird vibes, and I always give someone a chance, but as soon as I get that, I have a good reason to, I'm just kind of done.
I get that.
Kind of done.
Hire slow, fire fast, right?
That's the one. I think I would rather just hire fast, fire fast. I don't like slow. I don't like slow. That's part of my problem, I guess.
If that works for you, V.
Oh, well, I'm just about out of Celsius.
Well,
Yep.
2 more for you.
Meredith, thanks for coming here. This was a fun conversation.
Thanks for having me.
It's not the last time either.
Awesome.
And is there anything you want to tell anybody? I mean, where can they connect with you, your business, online, elsewhere?
Sure. The Recovery Connection here in Winchester, Virginia, we have a website, which is www.trc-va.com. So folks can find us there. If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please reach out to us. Even if we're not the right provider for you, we can help offer referrals and just get folks started on the pathway to freedom, hopefully. And we also have a Facebook page. And then Julie and I have a super fun brand page. It's called 2 Real Chicks. And
definitely follow that. Definitely follow that one.
It's been fun. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram and Facebook. And we just talk about real life topics. We'll have some serious topics in there, such as, forgiveness and grief and loss. And then we'll have some fun topics. For the month of November, we just took some random questions and we are answering questions on each video. So 2 Real Chicks, you can follow us there. And I want to thank you for your time today. You are awesome. You are incredibly talented at what you do. And it was pretty cool hanging out with you today.
Thanks, Meredith. We'll hang out again soon.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Sweet.
Boom.